Jar of Marble dwellers and Jar of Marble curious. My name is Linda and this is Jar of Marbles. And I'm Bob. That's right, you certainly are. We're both here. Happy that you've come to join us. And this week we'd like to talk a little bit about know your worth and add tax. When life's currents refuse to budge, we become the ones that get to transform our lives. It can be the wake up and smell the roses moment, and maybe we've been waiting too long for the outer to change, and that is not a safe bet at all, is it? We all know that feeling when it is simply time to see what we can implement, what we can do to shake things up in whatever direction is required. This subject this week was requested by one of our marble dwellers, and so here we go. Sometimes in life we just need to be still, be calm, long enough to be self-aware enough, maybe simply to be grateful for what we have. So that's a great start, to be in a good feeling place to then consider what next steps need to be. And sometimes that may mean to do nothing. As Emily Dickinson said, find ecstasy in life. The mere sense of living is joy enough. Sometimes the chaos is winning. It's so loud and in your face that to find that inner magical knowing seems like a tall order at times, doesn't it? It does. That's right, Bob. But it's there, just waiting to turn that magic on in our lives. I say magic because it sort of feels like magic to me, a feeling that feels far more elevated than the sinking sense of an ordinary one. I have been called stoic in my life a couple of times, and through being stoic, I've managed to the best of my ability, to keep my head above water. Experiences in our lives can and will bring sadness, and through being stoic, I, without intending, and I know there'll be many of you out there will know this one, you've built resilience and a sense of purpose. Years later, I came to understand that only I can actually do that for myself. No one can do it for us. Yes, we can get support, but at the end of the day, it is something that we've got to want for ourselves. And the feeling of finally being on top of behaviours or thought patterns that had plagued me is such a peaceful one and worthy of an applause, if you don't mind. So thank you very much. Yeah, that'll be good. And with becoming my friend to me, that is not beating myself up about what or who is absolutely out of my hands, out of my control. Being a true friend to myself, it is with a sense of progress. I know I can keep going regardless of what throws at me, or what life throws at me rather, and getting to trust in ourselves is a gift of skill, and keeping a vow to yourself in the end. I really believe that. And because we can say we're committed to something, we promise something, but the word vow and the sense of keeping a vow just seems has more depth and more meaning. And within that process resides a knowing of my worth, of your worth, ever so humbly, but there nonetheless. And with self-worth, I don't want to fall into traps. I don't seem to fall as readily. Traps? What do you mean? Well, Bob, if you haven't made peace with yourself, the same things will just pull you down. Some of us will have grown up in households where we might not have been asked what we are aiming to do with our lives, asked about what we want to do when we grow up. Hell, maybe no inquiries to how you're feeling. When there are no signposts and guidance in place, we may, fingers crossed, we may discover that later on in life, our environment may not have contributed to valuing ourselves. If you've been told enough that you may not end up able to do much with your life, that you won't add up to much. It is a challenging set of ideas and ideals to wipe out. Those are someone else's ideals projected onto us. Now, the ego will do whatever it can to keep you in that place, and any new ideas or suggestions will be put down or ignored. And if you have a strong reaction to this, there's the ego stopping you from listening to such nonsense. Fancy having your own ideas and your own beliefs. I've never heard of such a thing. Anyway, there's what we have been essentially brainwashed to believe. There are many parents out there who have brainwashed their kids into wearing the blame of what their parental units had to give up to have you, and how much it cost to raise you, and what you owe them. I know, right? Unbelievable. But then it can become a lopsided family joke, but they ain't joking and nobody's laughing. Quick interpretation: the ego, the well-trained, brainwashed side of us, not realising that you can do so very much if you have a mind to. There's the ego to stop you from considering another way to look at and live your life, because apparently there's only one way to do things, which of course is all hogwash. That's right. It's not true. That's right, Bob. Hashtag know your worth and add tax, because this is your life. I recall the day I realised fully that this is my life.
Me too.
Well, you would, Bob. And that I can and will make a life that I like lots, being a life that I am consciously present and fully awake. A life that makes sense to me and has me feeling on purpose and inspired. Destroying old paradigms is a journey in itself, isn't it? It takes a while to kill the weeds, the kaka, as my grandson says. There's a whole lot of unlearning. There will be no accepting of one's lot. Whose lot is that anyway? Or not even that, getting rid of beliefs that you were raised with and that perhaps you don't believe. So many of us do not. That can be quite the hill to climb up and over from, and so very doable too, though. You have your own beliefs, and throughout life you will discover more beliefs, and they may not mirror or look anything like what you were force-fed. It's fabulous to want more for yourself. Maybe not more, maybe different, maybe what your heart and soul are crying out for. Hashtag know your worth and add tax. At all costs we must avoid comparison. It can appear that others have it more together and have what you want. I have found over the years that this can be such an incorrect assessment, especially, say, on a social media platform, as an example, following someone who has all the answers or the so-called perfect life. First clue is that it is a set of photos and claims. And let's just say that it's pretty bang on true. They've worked hard and consistently for it. And changing ourselves or adding to our net worth is no different. Second clue, no one has a perfect life. Yes, there are wonderful lives, and yes, lifestyles to be had in many different forms, and of course depends on what you call wonderful. Third clue, maybe that you know more about their latte on soy preference and skincare regime than what you actually know and do for yourself. If we are tuned into another's life, we are not living or tuned into ours.
Oh, I like that.
Me too, Bob. It just speaks truth.
Is it just me, or is the second part of life getting over the first part?
Well, it could be in spots, Bob. Nothing spells success like investing time and energy into yourself, into your projects and where you want to land next, or what your ultimate goal is. If these are questions you have never considered, then I suggest ever so kindly to start asking yourself and let the answers come. Consider the role you play in others' lives.
Oh, I know my role.
I reckon truly be yourself is all of our roles.
It's not so easy for many.
I hear you, Bob, but if you can, in your own way, fly your own flag, be who you need to be, then that's definitely, a fabulous role to follow for yourself.
Just don't be rude.
That's right. Don't be rude to people. Are you the helper, the provider, the ride and die friend, partner? Are they that for you? Or are you a service provider? I can look back and see clearly what I was in certain people's lives and why they are no longer in my life today. Because in short, I stopped providing services. The services were varied, taking a shit because I felt so sorry for what they'd gone through. Services such as my time listening to all their problems and the ongoing same problems years later, you got it, the same problems, which then became their get out of jail card because you got it, they had a bag full of ridiculous problems. Being blindly generous and being treated poorly, and I mean poorly, man, I just needed to wake up. And I did. They didn't have to provide friendship because, well, I was the service provider. I was the one completely in the wrong. I took responsibility for it and I just, left. Anyway, giving what I wasn't receiving. And I don't mean give what I gave, but the respect. There was no respect. It was just nil. I had not realised my sense of self-worth had depleted over time. I was a sitting duck. So long and short, some people choose to be constantly deep in their problems, and I was the ride or die friend who didn't expect them to be there for me. because they were always so lost and always, very deeply involved in their problems. And in my mind's eye, when I woke up, I just stood amazed with smouldering coals in my hair, smudged lipstick smeared across my face, my clothes were all dishevelled, a shoe was missing and a dead fish was hanging out of my handbag. I stood amazed that I hadn't seen it. How could I have not seen any of that? See, in too deep, too invested in someone else's nightmare for so long that it had become my normal. When I woke up, I started changing my line of conversation and questions, and I wanted them to come with me, get away from the crazy and come into the light and come and grab a life that sings. Hell, let's sing together. But quick enough, I had to accept that that is not how this wake-up scenario works. In general, people don't notice the things, we do for them until we stop doing them. Of course, this is not everybody, but it's just really just highlighting how we can get caught up with situations and people that doesn't support your growth in any shape or form. So next steps were, as I started to truly gain momentum in my own self-care, these situations just stood out like dog's balls, as though seeing them for the first time.
You said balls.
Yes, I did, Bob. I realised that they were not going to find their road. Well, not the same day, and they hadn't even started to, and it made me feel quite alone. They were in too much pain. Pain was their go-to. It was their normal, and I couldn't turn to them. How can you turn to someone who's always in a really low mindset to go, now I've got some problems? I've never been that person. I won't turn to a person who's got problems, even if they're reasonable problems. I'm just aware that I don't need to pile on top. So I was providing accessible support regardless of how I felt, and that had to change. I was seeing clearly that I was the problem, in as much I needed to back out softly, rethink my strategies or the lack thereof. I was keen to get on with a life that felt empowered and stunning. There you go. Oh, feels so much better, doesn't it? I know. I'm always thinking up new ideas, and I've shared my ideas or wanted to think tank ideas, and it wasn't received or discussed because, again, that's right, you've got it, they were too deep in their problems, or it didn't match their list of concerns or wishes, which is fair enough. Our energies were not matching at all. Another reason that managed to make me feel quite alone, but also it started the beginning of the road to think of it for myself. Just think of my own road for myself. I'm a sharing kind of girl and wanted to be moving ahead and hopefully do it in great company and see where it all could go. But no, the lesson was, I think my sense of worth was screaming in a silent plea for me to stop. Just stop, and would you just start? It was all linked to old thinking. It could not and would not be applied anymore. Taking care of myself properly was the new, that I was to stop attempting being the solution for another. And what about this for a concept? And be the solution for myself. Oh, I know. Good, thanks. I was filling up my time with trying to help and not moving forward. And looking back, I was really losing myself quickly, and I felt plagued, as though I was going through it and in it and around it, and in actuality it had nothing to do with me. Hashtag know your worth and add tax. It was time to declutter, detach, and delete. Because the truth is, if someone is devaluing you or busy devaluing themselves because of their list of reasons, and if it is having an impact on your life, it's got to be restructured and or released. You'll know which every time. If you're going to, grow your worth, you most certainly have to add tax. Keeping a journal. This is where this can be a super powerful way to see your own habits and patterns. Curling up at the end of the day and write how you're going, what your thoughts were, especially if you're monitoring your thinking. Write them down, warty ones and all. This is for your eyes only, so don't hold back. Write it all out, and before long, you'll get really clear about your road and your wishes. And don't be surprised how surprised you might be as to what is lurking in your mind and what, you may have forgotten or pushed down what you really want to do. The The written word is powerful. By writing them down, you're catching them. The new thinking will get through. And while you're at it, dole up for yourself, dole. I read about a respectful and polite thing to do for yourself is dress up. Just dress up well for yourself. Personally, I do like to dress up a little bit because, God damn it feels good. If everyone else is dressing down, you don't have to. You do you, boo. Absolutely. Yes, be kind to yourself. Work out regularly for you. Eat well for you. They need to get to the back of the bus and you need to be the driver. Maybe park the bus and just get yourself a sweet ride just for you.
I always thought I'd like to drive buses.
I thought so, Bob, about you.
You did?
I did. Being comfortable with who you are, your height, your weight, and everything that makes and represents you is a wonderful, wonderful gift that you give yourself. Being clear about your values. Recognise the difference that you make. Respecting ourselves means that we are in touch with our self-worth. What starts to happen when you recognise your self-worth is you have a stronger self-respect. I'll try and say self-respect and self-esteem. It will allow you to see who is tearing you down, if there is anyone in your circle that is, and you are better equipped to deal with them. You just know that you don't have to put up with the situation. You do not have to settle because you know your worth. When you're focusing on self-improvement and growth is an all-round healthier approach rather than striving for external validation. This is a biggie right there, isn't it? Not striving for external validation. We have so many self-imposed prisons, cultural, religious, spiritual, mental, genetics. We can, without realising, survive, exist in self-imposed barriers. But to be willing to connect despite our fears and differences is the way to opening our heart, all the while keeping an eye on not crossing lines that suck us dry, that turn into journeys that may in fact not be ours. And as Rumi said, this universe is not outside of you. Look inside yourself. Everything that you want, you already are. So the old me would have stayed silent to keep the peace. The new me knows my voice is powerful and necessary. All of our voices are. When we are not being heard in any useful way, it can be so isolating. I don't get mad anymore. I just get very quiet. Why keep talking when they're not listening anyway? Celebrate being a righteous legend. Don't hold your breath for validation because you're never going to get it. So out of all of that came 3 lessons, probably more, but, just so we don't, go on forever, to leave people where they're at. I mean, it sounds so obvious when you say it, but when you find yourself in a situation where, it's just the same old, they're not prepared to go, you know what, I need to really pick myself up here, and they're refusing to, and they're quite happy to ring you and just bring you down. Sometimes you just got to leave them where they're at, and hopefully they'll find their way out and you can say, hey, I'll be here when you need me. But as far as talking about the same old problems all the time, I find that it's really bringing me down. And if they're a really good friend, they're going to go, hell, you know what, you're right. Anyway, also, another lesson was accept situations for what they are, which is kind of like number 1, isn't it? There's a lot of acceptance has to come. You go, you know what? This is their journey, and just as your journey is yours. Another lesson, the 3rd one, was not every action needs a reaction. So true. Oh my goodness. Some things you're just better off, as the main thing you say or utter, because especially if it's on repeat, the same problems, it's just the same old. Outside can be a very noisy place, can't it? And it is any wonder that we can't think straight or hear our own innate wisdom whispering softly. So all that noise can result in us believing that it is somehow a part of our worth. Know your worth. You must know that intimately, upside and backside and back through and all that.
Well, you said backside.
I did, Bob. Now shush. Hashtag know your worth and add tags.
I really like that saying.
Yeah, me too, Bob. Avoiding mental gymnastics makes for a highly sensible decision-making machine. You don't need a PhD in understanding someone else's bullshit. Just accept that some people don't make sense, and trying to apply your ways to get them involves self-gaslighting, and we all know that is rubbish city.
Scram!
That's right, Bob. You'll never make sense out of nonsense. It's like calling arsenic a flavour.
Oh, I like that too.
I know, me too, Bob. As said by Charles Bukowski, I'm a series of small victories and large defeats, and I am as amazed as any other that I've gotten from there to here. I really, really like that. I believe it is perfectly acceptable and real and true to be able to say, I went through something really strange and quite awful, and it has altered me forever. True words, and altered me in fantastical ways that I couldn't have grown in the way that I have had I not. But thankfully, each experience has made me softer and wiser. I have been careful to not become hard and bitter, certainly more cautious, and that is never a bad thing. And a saying from Ramtha, to let life happen to you is irresponsible. To create your day is your divine right. So many of us do not know that there are techniques that exist to transform our lives, that even in our darkest days, in chaos, we are the creators of our own metamorphosis. And this fab saying by Oscar Wilde, to live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people just exist.
Oh, I have a joke.
Oh, well, let's hear it then.
Why was Cinderella so bad at soccer?
Why?
She kept running from the ball.
Good one, Bob. Knowing your worth collides with many activities.
You didn't like...
I did like it.
Okay, then.
Knowing your worth collides with the many activities that we can Stop it, Bob.
Okay.
That we can cultivate in our lives. He's making faces at me. Things that light us up, activities that you love, that it is based on whether it succeeds or not, whether you're loved or rewarded. It doesn't matter. How many activities can you count in your life that you engage in simply because it just delights you, grabs your soul? Find what those things are. They are the passport to your soul, to your own wonderful road, to freedom and a true expression of selfless love. From the television series Mozart in the Jungle reminds us of the beauty of being an amateur. Amateur comes from the Latin word amar or amare, which means to love, to do things for the love of it. Because there is an endless list of obligations, expectations, have-tos, ambitions and desires, fears and concerns. These things are ever ready to insert themselves into our lives and get in the way of just feeling peaceful. It is that whole letting go thing which seems insurmountable, not doable. Letting go long enough to ensure that you are taking care of you so that your worth is intact, that it isn't dragged out to sea. It's our job to keep an eye on our good selves. Hashtag know your worth and add tax. The world can feel like it's so far from peace, but you can carry it and nurture it within yourself. And here's an amazing and interesting thing about troubling thoughts. Just by observing them, you actually shift your brain activity. How wonderful is our awareness? Insight is a really good thing. As women, there are so many demands on us, and in our hyper-distractible world, many of us lose the ability to be present. We can get caught up in our heads and wish away what is. We spend our lives on our way to the next thing and want anything other than what we have. We have to be ever vigilant that we are not doing that, and if we are, to be able to bring ourselves back to the centre of our being, to the front stage of our lives. It is a waste of our lives not being in our own centre. We lose gratitude, we lose our way, we can then lose a lot of time. Know that one. We never mean to. We can get lost in petty grievances, we can hold grudges, not sure that we're right and have a point. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Except the price of your peace of mind, keeping in mind your sense of self-worth, that all gets lost in the unmet expectations, in the fears, busyness, ego. We don't mean to. We just get a bit lost in small-minded stuff. We just get sideswiped by stuff, forgetting our light, the light that feeds us and makes us feel worthy and peaceful. All inside us. Please love yourself. Instead of the idea of other people loving you, learn to love your time alone. Right now, as I contemplate this episode, I'm in the countryside alone. It enables me to be honest with myself and let my heart hope, dream and love. It is hot today and there's no air conditioning. conditioning. I have my feet in a bucket of cool water with ice cubes in it, and I have wet face cloths around my neck, creating a little haven for myself, waiting for the day to cool down, feeling grateful that I can do all of this. I arrived with my own bucket so that I would be comfortable. I reckon you have a different kind of glow when you just do things for yourself and when you do what you can for yourself. When your confidence is fueled by belief in yourself, it just feels peaceful. I can only hope that some of this meant something to you, and even more so if it's helpful at all. That's my drive in all of this, that something is found to be inspirational, but as I say, helpful at the very least. Well, it is that time again.
Oh, it can't be.
Yes, it is, Bob. But we will be back again next week, ready to rock and roll through 2024. I hope this finds you well. Thank you for popping by. We absolutely love it when you do.
Yeah, we do. Me the most.
Well, I think I do the most.
No, I do. Most.
Okay, maybe we do both the most.
Yeah, no, it's definitely me the most.
Okay, fair enough, Bob. Well, say good day to the family for me. Give the camel a wave, and I'll see you next time, okay? Okay then. Bye.
Most.